Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. Apologies for Friday. I couldn't be with you. I was very, I wouldn't say sick. I'm feeling good. I just lost my voice bad. And the last thing you need is to hear me with a croaky voice. It's only just coming back today. So I won't be speaking too loudly. So I'll try and make sure that I speak into the microphone just because I can't raise my volume too much. Just let us know if you can or can't hear me. Excuse me, you'll hear me do that a fair bit too, that little cough thing. All right. So we've got a few things to talk about. Hey Liz, how are you? Yeah, we've got a few things to talk about. Yeah, I was going to say, Stephen, I would have thought someone would have come up with a few teaspoons of cement before you kick off. That's what my mates would have said to me anyway. All right. So we got a few things to talk about before we go open to questions. One of the things we need to discuss is a weak trough coming into central and north Queensland towards the end of the week. Obviously, there's a lot of weather in central Australia, but I think the main topic of discussion tonight revolves around the upcoming monsoon. The upcoming monsoon this weekend and what it might do to us next week down the track. So. Right, so let's get stuck in. The first thing that we need to discuss is this little trophy low you'll see on your screen here. It's already in the first early stages of development to the north of New Caledonia. It's going to drift south over the top of New Cal and then start to move west through the Coral Sea. Now, the important thing to understand here is that there is going to be no possibility of development of this system on approach to the coast. All right, it's going to be very weak, and the expectation here is as it does start to move westwards, it's not really going to take shape. So we're looking here at a fairly weak and possibly elongated, as in long ways, low pressure system. So what that means is that rather than focusing on the possibility of, say, tropical cyclone development, what we'd more so focus on is where will the heavier rainfall potential be as the system gets to the coast. Now, you will see in every single model member here, we don't deepen the system in any way, shape or form. All right, so we push it onto the coast Thursday or Friday, probably late Thursday into Friday, and we're looking at the area just south. Excuse me, I'm just going to make sure that my phone is on Do Not Disturb because they do this all the time, my mates. They start messaging me just when they know that I'm going live. All right, I think they're funny buggers. All right, so we've got a low pressure area moving onto the coast. Let's have a look at that in the EPS modelling here from the from Tropical Tidbits. All right, so what we can see these little red numbers over here. So those little red numbers showing us that there could be actually two circulation centres. So one in the northern part of the Coral Sea, one in the south. So this is what I mean about that oval-shaped low coming towards the Queensland coast. And you can see it makes landfall there, landfall in inverted commas, around about Thursday or more likely Friday. At no stage does it show anything better than, say, 1,000 hectopascals. So we're talking about a system that's marginally a low, right? So it's not even thinking about tropical cyclone intensity here. So let's have a look at what that might do to our weather when we take a look at our weather centre. By the way, before we get started properly, Fair Dinkum Builds, top left of the screen there, they're our major sponsor. We thank them for their sponsorship. And also, if you'd like to become a member, weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. And they would have been told everything you're about to be told tonight for the last couple of days. So weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. And there it is there, $32.95 a year, $39.95 for the Weather Centre, which is our graphics, or $69.95 for everything. So if you'd like to join us there, and you'll get your forecasts every single day. Right, let's get back into this. So let's have a look at what this is going to do with regards to rainfall. And I'm just zooming into Queensland here. We'll talk about central parts of Australia in a sec. So what we can see here is, generally speaking, not much going on through Queensland outside of the far north and the western edges of Queensland, right? Because there's obviously other weather systems in play out in the west. And in the far north, we've got quite a humid airstream, which is driving a fair bit of shower and thunderstorm activity there. Wednesday, still nothing much. You can start to see a little bit of shower activity just coming in from the east there. And then on Thursday is when that shower activity starts to hit the coast. And you can see it initialises around southeast Queensland and then starts to push northwards. Starts to push northwards as Thursday goes on. And then on Friday, we see that area of heavier rainfall just shift further northwards and basically expand. Remember, this is an elongated trough, so it initially hits southern Queensland and then it expands itself all the way up to northern Queensland. So we're all going to see a little bit of shower activity on the coastline from it. Occasionally, those showers will get quite heavy, particularly in the southern and central parts of the state. And then eventually, as we get to the weekend, we might see some heavier shower activity around northeast Queensland, as you can see on your screen there by Saturday. All right, so that's our first system. Once again, absolutely zero threat of this becoming a tropical cyclone. So any muppet that says otherwise, not reading the tea leaves properly. All right, so that's what we're expecting here. Now, I just want to take us into the northern parts of Australia. Excuse me, actually, we might use the Eastern Australian overlay. So what we've got in the inland parts of Australia at the moment is a low pressure system located in the Northern Territory's southern half. Now, the expectation is that that low is going to stick around that Central Australian region, and look at the amount of fetch of tropical air it's bringing down into not just Queensland and the Northern Territory, but also South Australia. South Australia, believe it or not, may actually see some of the heaviest rainfall out of this thing on the southern side, where this northerly is being squeezed in and meeting some of these drier southerlies. So we're going to see a really solid little area here of rainfall in the desert regions of Lake Eyre. And then further southwards, we're actually going to see quite a bit of that moisture expand southwards as well, down into northern New South Wales and eventually southern New South Wales, and even parts of Victoria are going to start to witness some of this, and they're going to start to get in on some of this action. Now, eventually this low is going to weaken, and you can see it there weakening, but it is still being able to, while it's weakening, it's expanding into one more of those elongated circulations. And so what we're able to do is bring that deep tropical moisture and continue filtering it. Look at how far down to the south this moisture is getting. So we're going to clearly see some really nice rainfall potential in areas that are desperately crying out for rain in Western New South Wales and parts of Victoria, and certainly parts of South Australia. So there's some really positive signs there for those folks to get some good rain out of this. So if we take a look at the next few days with this thing, we can see tomorrow a lot of our heaviest falls in the southern and central NT, extending down into southwest Queensland, northeast South Australia and northwest New South Wales. On Tuesday, we're anticipating significant rainfall through this southern NT, northeast and South Australia and the borders areas of New South Wales and Queensland, but also expecting to expand some of that rainfall southwards to Victoria, which is pretty cool. Wednesday, we see a little bit of a gap there in the moisture flow, so we see the contraction of rainfall a little further back to the north again on Wednesday, and you can see large areas of Western Queensland getting in on that action. But you'll notice there a bit of a gap between the rain area in New South Wales and the rain down in southern states, as a bit of a ridge tries to build in. It fails, but it tries to build in temporarily. So Thursday, we see a further contraction to the northwest. Then as we get into the weekend, so Friday, we start to see an expansion. So see on Friday, we expand the rain southwards again. All right, so that ridge that builds in to try and stabilise the south then is superseded or replaced by developing trough. And so this trough now allows all this deep tropical moisture to filter southward. So some really good rainfall down there for southern Australia. And look at that by Saturday. Widespread moderate to heavy falls on the weekend around New South Wales, parts of Victoria and parts of South Australia. Absolute godsend for those areas for sure. And you'll notice we're still maintaining significant rainfall through the Northern Territory. So if we take a look at just the accumulated rainfall between now and Sunday night, we can see large areas of the Northern Territory in excess of 100 millimetres, up to about 200 or 300 millimetres is possible around that southern NT, Barkly District, what's the other one? Barkly District and Simpson. I think it's Simpson district down here. So the idea then, further to the south, is we're expanding quite a bit of that rain southwards, and you can see large areas of 50 to 100 millimetres, potentially even more than that, through parts of New South Wales and Victoria, and even parts of South Australia. So some really good rainfall in those areas. And we've got pretty good agreement in the model guidance about this sort of rainfall. So it's not as if one model's saying it and we're just cherry picking the data. This is this is a numerical weather prediction model. So this is a physics-based model I'm showing you now. And you can see the physics-based model is picking up a bit more rain than the others, than the AI modelling. So in this setup, you can see we're getting 200 or 300 millimetres of rain. Probably a little bit too much rain, if we're being honest, too quickly. But once again, widespread falls in the 50 to 100, 50 to 150 range in areas that desperately need rainfall. So there are some real positive signs. This is the first time this season that we've seen actual river of moisture being able to be transported through the deep layer atmosphere into southern Australia. A lot of the time in the last few seasons, we've been able to do that a number of times. This season, we've had big, strong ridging to the south, which hasn't allowed any deep moisture transportation. Even though we've had big monsoons up north, we haven't been able to pull that moisture southwards. This is the first time we're going to see that happen this season. And so there's some really good opportunities here for widespread rainfall through southern Australia. And so I'm a bit excited about that, but also a bit nervous. You know, the places that haven't seen 300-400 millimetres in 2 or 3 years might see 300-400 millimetres in the next 5 or 6 days. That's a little bit apprehensive as well, right? So exciting, but also we probably don't need that much rain over that shorter period. So that's the caveat there. All right, I'm going to take us over now to the Vanuatu area. And we're going to discuss, there's a fairly strong tropical cyclone developing out there. Not yet, but it will be quite strong. And it will be coming westwards for a little bit and then drifting southwards, staying well away from Queensland. But I need you to just understand this. So when the bullshit comes out and people start showing big Cat 5s hitting Brisbane, that you can call them out on that rubbish, all right? So let's have a quick look here at what's going on in the Coral Sea as we move beyond this time frame. And then we're coming back to Australia because we need to discuss what's happening from the weekend onwards. All right, so we're going to see a fairly strong tropical cyclone form here, and we're pretty confident about this. The environment is really conducive for a strong tropical cyclone to develop in the area. So firstly, this is our little trophy low, right? This is that little thing that's coming onto the Queensland coast. This is a completely separate thing to the one we're talking about now. All right, so this is our trophy low. You can see comes onto the coast. Now, as our trophy low is coming onto the coast, something's brewing out there near Vanuatu. Now, that something is expected to be quite a significant tropical cyclone. Now, if it can find a little bit more open water than that, it'll deepen very quickly. If it continues to sort of operate in between the Vanuatu Islands as we go into Thursday and Friday, it might take a little bit of time to get itself together. All right, but if it finds open water out there, the environment is really favourable for fast and rapid development of a tropical cyclone. So we expect this system to become very strong. And in fact, in most model guidances, we're seeing Cat 3 to 5 intensities. All right, so normally computer models tend to be a little bit on the defensive, a little bit on the conservative side. Not with this one. They're really honing in and hammering this one. So the initialisation period, a little bit slow if it's over land, but if it's just outside of those islands, then happy days. It'll develop very quickly. Now, from here, it moves westwards for a touch. All right, now it moves westwards a touch, but only a touch. It only gets into the Coral Sea. Remember, the Coral Sea is bounded by the Vanuatu Island, so anything west of Vanuatu is the Coral Sea. So it gets into the Coral Sea, but only the far eastern edge of the Coral Sea, not into our area. Now, some models do bring it further westwards. Yes, they do, but they only bring it westwards to around about the edge of our region. All right, they don't bring it westwards all the way to threaten the coastline. So the idea here is that the system is expected to be, as I say, 3, 4, or 5, and then pushing between Vanuatu and Newcal. Let's have a look at the data on this one, because the data's pretty clear on this one. But I know that there's going to be the panic merchants that'll start gibbering about cyclones and all sorts of things, and start getting you all hot and bothered. So I want you to be able to know what's bullshit and what isn't. All right, so on Thursday, so all these dots are where the lows could be, or where the one low could be. So you can see already the models are there's about a 800 kilometre difference. So we're kicking off in this area, 800 kilometres, give or take, of where the system could be, north or south. Now, clearly, the initialisation of the system is out near Fiji, just as a weak trough. Does nothing until it gets to Vanuatu. As it gets to Vanuatu, keep an eye on the time down there, on the bottom right of your screen, where it says Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday 00 is 10 a.m. Queensland time. All right, so what happens here is the system starts at Fiji, pushes towards Vanuatu, doesn't develop much on the way to Vanuatu, but once it gets to Vanuatu, especially if it finds open water there, the system opens up a beautiful outflow channel to the south, which means that it can intensify quickly from that point. And so here, where the system does start to turn southwards, we see a fairly rapid intensification of the system. And you can see here quite a number of the pink-purple models. And in the experimental model suite, you can see they're almost all suggesting Category 4 or Category 5. Just be aware, the experimental models do get a little bit carried away with intensity versus the numerical weather prediction models, which tend to be a little bit conservative with intensity. But just overall, we certainly see a westward motion into the eastern Coral Sea, but that's it. From there, we see a southeastward motion. So even though it's going to be a bit of a monster cyclone, it's not going to have any real impact on Queensland's coastline. If it gets, say, as far west as some of these western outliers, say western New Caledonia, it might just bump up some of the waves and swells around southeast Queensland as it comes through, but that's all it'll do. There won't be any rain associated with it. There won't be any real wind. It'll just be perhaps a bit of a chance at some big waves, particularly offshore in that type of setup. Okay? So just getting in ahead of the panic merchants that try and, panic you with all the pretty pictures. So just understand, yes, absolutely, very strong tropical cyclone. All the data points to this being quite a serious system. All right, and if you do have friends and family in Vanuatu and to some extent New Caledonia, I'd be telling them to keep a very close eye on this. All right, but that's it. Just Vanuatu and New Caledonia, not Queensland. All right. Now, we need to talk about what's going to happen over the weekend in Northern Australia, because Northern Australia is going to start to see a monsoon develop. There's a lot of stuff I would have liked to have talked to you about a couple of days ago, but with my voice, so I've got to catch up on a lot of stuff to let you know. All right, so up here in the north, I'm just going to move us up a little bit higher, take us out of the frictional layer. So we're moving up about 500 metres into the atmosphere here, just so we can take out all the ground clutter away, so we can have a look at what's going on really with our winds. All right, so what we're seeing evidence of here is no sign of a monsoon at the moment. This little westerly flow isn't really a monsoonal flow. As we go through the rest of this week, still no sign, right? No sign of any monsoonal influence at this point in time. But we start to move down into Thursday and Friday, and you just get the hint there that we're getting a bit of a cross-equatorial flow now. And you'll notice our wind speeds are just increasing, 20 to 25 knots, deep westerly flow, just starting to kick in through the Arafura Sea. And then as we go into Friday and Saturday, you can now clearly see we're getting a cross-equatorial flow right into the northern part of Australia. So as we go into this weekend, what are we expecting? We're expecting the monsoon to return, okay? So the monsoon returns on probably Saturday, maybe Friday in the northern parts of the top end, but probably Saturday for the rest of the far north. Now, just bearing in mind, where is the monsoon? The monsoon stays in the far northern parts of Australia at this point. So you'll notice there, it's not south of Cairns, it's up around Lockhart River, and it's down around Borroloola. So it's sort of like that. So you can see where the air is rotating at that monsoon trough line, okay? So just be aware, it's not down in Brisbane, not down in Townsville, it's up there in Lockhart River over the weekend. Excuse me. All right, so from here, we're maintaining this deep, strong northwesterly flow. Now, what we're looking for on the monsoon trough are two areas of potential rotation. The first one is here around the Kimberley-NT border. The second one is either off the coast of Cooktown, Cairns, or around Mornington Island and Karumba, that sort of area just in there. All right, so we're looking for two areas, so we're just not sure that second area is either on the west coast or the east coast, but it's going to be close to the coast either way. All right, so they're the two areas we're looking at here, and obviously that area in here. We're not going to see 1, 2, 3 lows form. We're just going to see 2 lows form, but we just don't know. We know that one's going to be out here. We just don't know where that second one's going to be. Is it going to be in here or is it going to be in here? All right, so that's what we're looking for as we move into next week. So the monsoon comes in, and the monsoon alone would not be able to create lows on its own, but because we've got a fairly fresh to strong southeasterly on the south side of the monsoon, that imparts a fair bit of spin. And the spin is imparted on the monsoon here in North Queensland and here in the Kimberley region, where you're getting a southeasterly meeting this northwesterly, and that creates spin. Here, we're getting a southeasterly meets this west-northwesterly, and we're starting to create spin. All right, so we're creating spin where those air masses collide. All right. So from here, what we're interested in is where will these systems go? Now, we're pretty confident that anything that forms near the North Queensland coast will come into Queensland's coastline. We're also pretty confident that anything that forms in the Gulf will probably move into the Northern Territory. All right, so basically what I'm saying there is whatever forms along that monsoon trough as we move into next week will move in a general westerly direction. So if we do get a low that forms off the coast of Cairns or Cooktown, it'll come onto the coast of Cairns and Cooktown. If we do get a low that forms around Morno, then it'll move west towards Borrow. All right, so that's what we're looking at there. And over in the west, same sort of deal. All right, so anything that forms in the west, we're also anticipating a general westerly motion. So once it forms, we expect it to move in a general westerly motion. And why am I confident about those setups? Let's have a look. When we take a look at our tropical cyclone steering mechanisms, we can see here the stronger that a system goes, or the stronger the system is, the more confident we become, right? So, and that's often the case with cyclones. The stronger they are, the more predictable their movement patterns can be. The weaker they are, the more they can surprise us. As you saw with Koji, remember with Koji, very weak, rubbish system, absolute dreadful. It's an abomination to tropical cyclones. But that's what made it so difficult to forecast exactly where it was going to hit, right? Because it was such a shit system. So shit systems are hard to forecast. Good systems are a lot easier to forecast. All right, so when we take a look at that, we can see here that the initialization, this period on Sunday, Monday, the monsoon comes in with a burst, right? So everything that forms along the monsoon wants to push eastwards initially. All right, that's the initialization of the monsoon. Once the monsoon sets in, the ridge strengthens in response. So see here, now we've got west to east motion and east to west motion. And you can see here that the east to west motion is a little bit stronger than the west to east motion. So anything that's forming anywhere in the western Coral Sea, all bets are off if something forms in the eastern Coral Sea, that'll move away from us. But in the western Coral Sea, near the coast of Cairns to Cooktown, anything that forms there will likely move towards the coast. Anything that forms here will likely move to the southwest. Anything that forms here will likely slowly move to the west. So that's where we're at next week. And the later in the week we go, the more the monsoon looks like it's going to weaken as we get into, say, next weekend, not next weekend, the weekend after. So with the monsoon weakening and the ridge staying in play, we get even more confident that anything in the Coral Sea will move west, anything in the Gulf will move west, anything in WANT will move west. So as the monsoon begins letting go, we see the ridge taking control. And you can see that continues basically for the 2-week period. Look at this massive mid-level ridge across southern Australia there. All right, so that's going to take everything to the west, everything here to the west, because it extends into the Coral Sea. All right, so that's the expectation over the next couple of weeks about where things should go. Now, eventually the Coral Sea's direction changes. We see an upper trough developing as we move into the end of next weekend, not next weekend, sorry, the weekend after, and then everything will start moving southeast again. All right, but during this period, week 1 to week 2, so between this Monday and next Monday and next Friday, everything should be moving west. After that, it might get a little bit tricky again. After that, though, we'll know what we're dealing with. Are we dealing with a shit system? Are we dealing with something that's half decent we need to pay attention to? Those questions too early to answer. But for now, understand the monsoon's coming back, and with the monsoon coming back, we're going to see a big increase in potential for tropical cyclone development, but also potential for rainfall in the far north. I just need to stress that part, far north. Not all of Queensland, not all of NT, not all of WA, the far north. So the Kimberley, the top end, the Cape, far north Queensland, the Gulf, those areas. Anyone south of that, you're not guaranteed anything in that second week, okay? So it all comes down to what happens from that monsoon. All right, so what we can see here is a real clear indication of how the monsoon sets in. So this is our rainfall between now and Saturday. You can see that the top parts of Australia, nothing too dramatic there, right? 50 to 100 mils, that's pretty common at this time of the year to see 50 to 100 mils fairly widespread up there. Now, as we go into the second week of the forecast, we take that right out to the next weekend, and bam, you can see the difference the monsoon makes, right? But notice, it only makes a difference to areas north of Townsville, all right? There hasn't been a substantial increase in rainfall south of there yet, because it depends on what the monsoon can produce and where that moves once it produces it. So as I said, anything up here will move west, anything here will move west, anything here will move west. All right, so that's what we're looking for next week. But quite clearly, a big increase in rainfall is on the cards into the second week as the monsoon sets into the far north. All right, so that's all I've got for you today. I'll open it up to a few questions. My voice is still there, so that's good. And then we'll call it quits. G'day, David. G'day, Dave. Liz, hi, Muscles. Hope you're feeling better. Yes, Liz, thank you. I am feeling... I haven't been feeling bad. It's just my voice. I've just been talking too much. Steve, oh, yeah, we've been through that one. Steve, hey, Nitso. Hey, Steve. Deb, all good. That means you can hear me? Great. Oh, geez, I probably should have checked that before now. Stephen, I was being kind. Yeah, teaspoon of cement would have been better. Jack, update on Cairns. Yeah, Jack, not much going on for Cairns, mate. It's all about whether or not you can get hit by one of these little showers and thunderstorms, right? So that same stuff that's been going on over the tablelands. Just a matter of, there's a lot of luck involved in that stuff for Cairns. But we don't see any change. So there's great opportunities again. But the opportunities are primarily sort of located inland of you, if we're being fair income. So for Access C North Queensland, tell us that, I hope. So you can see today, most of our opportunities are just inland of you. Tomorrow, most of our opportunities are going to be just inland of you. So Mareeba, Atherton, these sort of areas should do really well in this week. But Cairns, yeah, sure, you're an outside chance, mate. But that's all you are. You're an outside chance, all right? And with the monsoon, you're not going to see anything from that until next week at the earliest. So if we take a look here, Monday for Cairns, yep, chance of a shower. Tuesday, chance of a shower. But you can see you're not the focal point of attention, right? Wednesday, same sort of thing, chance of a shower. But once again, you're not the focus of attention. Thursday... We see showers, possible thunderstorms on the tablelands, not much for the coast. But remember on Friday, what do we got coming Friday? That little weak trophy low. That starts to push onto the coastline south of you. And then on Saturday, we expect that to probably increase shower activity more than what's being reflected here. I don't like that model. Let's have a look at a model that probably has got that better, has got that right, yeah. So here, as we go into Friday, we see the shower activity increase to the south of Cairns, and then on Saturday we expect to see quite a bit of rainfall activity in the southern part of the region, all right, as that trough comes onto the coast. And then by this stage, on Saturday, you're watching up north, mate. You're watching what's going on with the monsoon. How fast is it coming down? How far is it coming down? Are we starting to see anything spinning up around Cooktown? Are we starting to see anything showing signs of spinning up around Morno? All right, all those things are what you're watching for as we go into the weekend, next weekend, because that could determine whether you're in for a really wet week the next week, potentially a cyclonic week the next week, or whether you're in for just a few showers, okay? So that's what you're watching for in Cairns. But for this week, mate, you're just a chance of a shower every single day. David, loud and clear. Good stuff, Dave. Jay, howdy, Nitso from Taylor's Beach. Howdy, Jay. Taylor's Beach, that's near Ingham. Let's have a quick look at Ingham. Let's have a look. What's going on there? Hopefully that Tones and I concert went well. I think they had a Tones and I concert there on for Friday night, so that would have been a really good concert to be at. All right, so for Ingham, yeah, same sort of thing as we just talked about for Cairns, I suspect. You can see lots of rain just inland, and I suspect that because Ingham's a little closer to the mountain range than Cairns, Ingham's always a slightly better chance at picking up this stuff than Cairns is. But, yeah, Sunday's accumulated precip, yeah, just out the back of Ingham is where we're seeing most of it. Monday, same sort of thing, same as today, mate. So lots of potential there for showers and isolated thunderstorms on the ranges. Tuesday's the same, so we're same. It's basically a carbon copy day after day through to midweek. Then we'll see a bit of a break on Wednesday, Thursday, where there won't be much going on. And then Friday is when we start to see that shower activity from that little trophy low coming onto the coast. And that's where we'll see an increase in showers again on Friday and Saturday through the district, with possibility of some heavy falls developing over the weekend, depending on a few factors. But that's what we're looking for up there in Taylor's Beach, Ingham area. Fee, hey Nitso, voice sounds better. Thanks, Fee. It's still a bit of a struggle. Hi, Nitso from Miller. Hey, Lisa. Hopefully you're getting some showers and thunderstorms there. Maybe not right now, but Miller should be right in the thick of things, as we just talked about, just inland of Cairns. We're anticipating some pretty big potential rainfall. If we take a look at the high-res model, and the big thing with the thunderstorms out there are that some very heavy localised falls, and you can see that happening there tomorrow as well. So there's Atherton, there's sort of Miller in there. Yeah, so there's really good opportunities for flash flood risks through that Miller-Malanda area with their thunderstorm activity on both today, tomorrow and Tuesday. So we're actually seeing some really good potential for heavy falls of rain there. But it's very hit and miss, Lisa. So it's not a guarantee, but there should be enough of them out there that you get a pretty decent taste over the next couple of days of a good little drop of rain in Miller. Morgan, Holmes, Evans. What is stopping development? Shear? No, not necessarily wind. Yes and no. I think you mean this little coral sea rubbish. No, I'm assuming you're talking about the coral sea rubbish. So I'll just have a quick look for you. The big thing that's stopping a lot of development of this thing, when I was last looking at it, and I haven't been, to be honest, because it showed me nothing, I haven't really paid a lot of attention, mate. But if we did take a look, what I remember seeing in this was that it had no moisture whatsoever to play with. So as we go, so see this? So as we go through the week, it's got absolutely no moisture to play with. So tropical cyclones need deep layers of moisture, all right, through that 700, 400 hectopascal level. This is on our subscription service, by the way. Join it, and you'll have that access to those charts. And you can see here the 700 to 400 hectopascal level isn't moist enough for it to support tropical cyclone development in the Coral Sea. So the system's going to be pulling in dry air around dry air, right? So it's not nearly wet enough through the deep layer atmosphere for a tropical cyclone in the southern and central Coral Sea. Northern Coral Sea's a bit different. Northern Coral Sea, yeah, sure, there's a little bit more potential there, but the system itself is going to be pretty poorly structured. But in terms of wind shear, mate, no, there's not much in terms of shear that we need to be worried about. You can see here the latest shear, the latest shear forecast is around 15 knots, 10, 15 knots. So it's not so much the wind shear, it's the pore formation. So we've got a very elongated oval-shaped low. That takes 2 or 3 days to tighten up. And on top of that, when it does start to tighten up, it's going to have to pull in dry air from around itself. So, yeah, it's not one of those things, mate, I'm too concerned about. Look, as always, it's a Coral Sea low. We've just got to keep an eye on it. The big one in the Coral Sea is the one behind it, right? The one in the Vanuatu area. That one, I'd be a bit concerned if I'm in Vanuatu or if I'm in New Caledonia or if I'm cruising through that area. I think they do like to cruise through that area at this time of the year. So that's the one I'd be worried about, because that one's got a beautiful outflow channel to the south, nice outflow to the north, low vertical wind shear, lots and lots of deep layer moisture. That's That's the one I'd be concerned about, that's for sure. Not this little piddly thing over Queensland. Right. Melzy. Hey, Nitso. Hey, Melzy. How are you? Thanks for joining us. David, 10 mils of much-needed rain in Geelong. Yeah, David, Geelong's probably not the focal point of the next rain event. Geelong will get some rain for sure, but yeah, probably not the... We're talking more northern Victoria for the bigger stuff. Yeah. Anthony, gun show, let's go. Thanks, Anth. Yeah, no guns today. Rest day today, rest day. Could a low become a Cat 1 in the desert in completely perfect conditions? They call this the brown ocean effect, munji. So we have seen tropical cyclones. They mostly happen in the Pilbara, where they've maintained tropical cyclone intensity or they've intensified over land, and they create a wind field that resembles a tropical cyclone, a proper tropical cyclone. And it's called the brown ocean effect. So if you moisten up the top layer of the soil, the atmosphere doesn't understand the difference between the moisture in the soil and the moisture in the ocean. And so if you can moisten up enough of the top layer of the soil, you can provide the cyclone with enough energy to sustain its heat engine even while it's over land. The key to that is you need to have so much moisture in the top part of the soil. It needs to be fully saturated, and preferably you need that soil to be very hot, which is pretty much the case in the desert, isn't it? The top part of that soil is going to be quite hot. And so the idea is it mimics physics. The physics mimics the idea of the top layer of the ocean. All right. Now, it's a lot harder to get the right conditions there, but absolutely you can get a Category 1 over land, and due to the brown ocean effect. And as I say, there's been many studies on this not many studies, but many case studies of this happening in the Pilbara and the Kimberley, more so than Central Australia. There was a really good one in the Northern Territory a few years back around probably north of Tennant Creek. It was somewhere between Tennant Creek and Katherine, and it just intensified, and it was a Category 1 cyclone over land. It had the wind field of a Category 1 cyclone. So there's been many cases where this has happened. Doesn't usually happen this far south in the desert, though, because obviously it's very difficult to get that layer of soil that we need to be moist enough. And usually the brown ocean effect isn't early in the season. It usually happens later in the season when we have a situation where we have, already pre-moistened the soil, right? So we need to have had maybe a cyclone to go through the place, or a lot of rain to have gone through the place for that mimicking effect to happen. But absolutely, a low can become a Cat 1 in the desert in completely perfect conditions, and there's been documentations of it becoming one. The Bureau would be very hesitant to call it as such, because I think one of the criteria is that a tropical cyclone needs to form over water. So I don't think there's ever been a low named a tropical cyclone over land, because part of the Bureau's, if I'm not mistaken, the Bureau's got all these technical definitions of what makes a cyclone. But to be a tropical cyclone, I think it has to form over water. So theoretically, what you're saying there has happened, and practically it has happened, but it just can't be named as such because it happened over land, okay, if that makes sense. So, yes, great question, Munji, because it does happen where we do get Category 1 that can develop tropical cyclone wind field with tropical cyclone strength, but over land. Helen, F, I'm assuming means following, not FU, but I'll take it as an F as in following, so thanks, Helen. I think Anthony, moisture and moistness, goodness, great show. No worries, Anthony. Mansail, Tony Vanuatu. I'm not sure what that means. Stephen, don't forget to mention the weather for Vegas. Oh, I've completely forgotten to. Stephen, sorry, mate. Oh, I had it written in my phone too, but because I didn't come back to you on Friday, yeah. Oh, I'll have to do that Wednesday. All right, Wednesday, last chance. I'll definitely As long as my voice is here, I'll be back with you Wednesday. We'll talk about Vegas. I've got so many friends who are over in Vegas waiting for the NRL, keen as. But yeah, I'd imagine it's going to be cold at night, hot in the day. But then again, it is still halfway through their winter, so I'll be very interested to see what their temperatures are. I can't imagine there'll be a lot of rain, but yeah, I'll have a look. Sorry, mate. I did do this on. I did do this for Friday, and then I thought, nah, I'm out. I couldn't come back to you with it, but I'll have another look for Wednesday. The low in the eastern Coral Sea went further north and towards the Solomon Islands. Would it be more likely to head west? Dolphins. Yeah, this is a question I sort of posed in the subscriber update today. By the way, folks, Weather IQ subscription, $32.95 a year, $69.95 a year for everything, $32.95 if you're after my forecast. But this is something we talked about in the subscription update, that if that low in Vanuatu, so if we took just these ones up here, where the system stays a little further north, what could that theoretically do to the forecast track? It could theoretically bring it further west, but then we do still expect to see upper level troughing through the southern Coral Sea eventually taking control. And we see in some of the Euro model members here, the ones that keep the system a lot further to the north, up closer to the Solomons, right? So I don't want to sort of disaster pawn this out, because obviously we're going out to the public here. This is more something I'd like to discuss in a more private group. But look, theoretically speaking, if we were to push this way up a little bit further to the north, let's say we only use those as our options, you can see we're still getting to the same outcome. We're just bringing it a little further west to get to that same outcome. We're not getting it all the way west at this point, right? Nothing there that tells us that we can move all the way west, but it does tell us that we might be able to move into the Australian area of responsibility if we do stay up a little bit further to the north. But yeah, as I say, I don't want to sort of disaster pawn this out, because we can talk about theoretical stuff over and over again. But eventually, I think what we're going to find is that there's going to be an upper trough here that's going to just grab something and take it away, right? So in the eastern Coral Sea, we're not seeing that same... See this difference in the mechanisms? So in the eastern Coral Sea, the mechanism is going to drive everything southwards. So southwards, and then driving it southeastwards eventually. So the idea here is going to be that we would need to stay west of Willis Island. So we would need this thing, even if it's up at the Solomons, we would need this thing west of Willis Island by, say, Sunday. We're not going to get that. So I don't think, I don't think it's helpful to sort of speculate too much on this major cyclone coming anywhere near Queensland, because there's just no real evidence for it. I think there was a little bit more evidence this morning that this upper trough in through the Coral Sea wasn't going to be as strong, but now we're seeing a fairly strong upper level ridge through Tonga, and that upper level ridge in combination with an upper trough, it's all showing us southeast this evening. So this morning there was a hint that that there might be about a 10% risk if the system was to stay up there, that it might be able to avoid all the ridging and troughing, but based on this afternoon's runs, mate, I can't see that happening. Tony, Jared Pierard. I'm assuming you're tagging someone? No, cool. Thanks, Tony. Carolyn, happy Darwin girl here. Love the word monsoon. Yeah, you're going to love Friday and Saturday, Carolyn, because that's when it's coming. Jan, thanks, Nitso. No worries, Jan. Tash, thanks, Nitso, even though you aren't 100%. Thanks, Tash. Thank you. Thanks, Marilyn. Jesse, update for the Whitsundays this coming weekend. Yeah, I'm not seeing too much there for the Whitsundays this coming weekend. I think we're definitely seeing some showers redeveloping into Thursday and Friday. Let's have a look. Now, I'm pretty confident we were seeing some showers developing Thursday, Friday in this area. Yeah, Thursday. Yep, into Friday. Yep, so showery. And then through the weekend, what do we got? Yeah, continuation of a few showers. Yeah, so a few showers continuing through the weekend, I'd imagine. So nothing dramatic there for the Whitsundays, though. Nothing that the Whitsundays can't handle. Yeah, so Friday a few showers, Saturday a few showers, Sunday a few showers. Some moderate to heavy falls possible, but not sort of flooding rainfall, and certainly nothing to do with the monsoon at this stage. I can't imagine you're going to be seeing too much there. Yeah, the AI model's a little bit keener on driving a fair bit of heavier rainfall to you on Friday night and Saturday morning. Where is it there? Yeah, there it is there. So you can see there, Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, just getting a few showers on the Whitsundays, then thickening up there for Friday and particularly Friday night, Saturday morning looks to be the peak of it. Continuing into the back end of Saturday and then finding up for Sunday, or so I say finding up, chance of an isolated shower or two. So yeah, there's something there for you to sink your teeth into towards the end of the week. Friday, Saturday for the Whitsundays. Sunday probably not looking as interesting. But remember, this has nothing to do with the monsoon. This is just due to the weak tropical trough that's coming west in the Coral Sea. Update for Whitsundays. Yep, that's that one. Leonie, thanks, Nitso. Nice to have a break from the heavy rain in the Whitsundays. Yeah. As I say, there might be something back for you towards the end of the week there, but probably not as heavy as the stuff you've just gone through. Thanks, Nitso. I appreciate all the work you put in. Thanks, Fee. Thanks for joining us. Dwayne, I've seen modelling for the possibility second week March Rockhampton cyclone. Yep. You'll see possibilities all over the place, mate. That's why we've got a subscription service to try and weed out the rubbish from the real stuff. So what we're looking at here, what you would have been seeing, is the second week of March. A chance there of some new tropical developments. It's not very clear cut. It's very difficult to know this early in the piece. Remember, we've got a monsoon coming on Sunday. Once we got a monsoon coming, we can't really forecast more than 5 days out. All right, so when we start to get a monsoon and when we start to get these multiple rotational centres that develop along a monsoon, it's so difficult to forecast more than 5 or 6 days out. All right, so just understand that you will be seeing tropical cyclone risks. I mean, each one of those little red dots there could be a tropical cyclone, and look at how many we've got. All right, so mate, I could find a model that'll show you a coastal crossing of a Cat 3, 4 or 5 over Brisbane in 2 weeks. And the same for Rocky, and the same for Townsville, and the same for Cairns, and the same for Borroloola, and the same for the Pilbara. The problem is there's no credible evidence, right? You can find a model to regurgitate anything you want it to tell you, all right? You just have to look deeply enough. You'll find a model that does that finds you some disaster porn. But the point is here, there's no credible evidence of that. Okay, so absolutely, Dwayne, I'm sure you'll see modelling for the possibility of a second week March cyclone for sure. And you can clearly see it here. We just can't intelligently say, is that cyclone going to be at Fiji, New Zealand, Brisbane, Lockhart River, Darwin, or maybe over in Exmouth? We just don't know. All right. So once the monsoon sets in, once we start figuring out where these rotational areas are going to form, that's when we can start creating some opinions, with some more educated opinions on where these things may or may not go. So anything once the monsoon, that's the big thing to take home. I'm not having a go at you there, Dwayne, but what I'm saying there is once the monsoon sets in, we've got basically a 5-day accuracy window. After that, all bets are off. We just don't know. All right? Maryland. Severe storms lifted for a while. Charters, Towers to Townsville. So I don't think... severe storms... I think you mean heavy rain-laden thunderstorms, because I don't think there's been too many severe storms in the area. I think what you're trying to say there is, have we seen the last of the thunderstorms in the region? And my answer to you would be probably... In terms of strong thunderstorm activity, yeah, but we're going to see some locally heavy showers over the course of the next week or so, particularly sort of north of Townsville, north of Charters Towers, and you know, there's always a chance if you're driving the road between Townsville and Charters Towers, you're going to cop a fairly heavy shower there. But you know, we're not seeing any real evidence that there's not going to be any weather in the region, but also we're not seeing evidence of those widespread showers and thunderstorms that we've been seeing, you know, the last few days. So we're seeing a lot less of that on the cards over the course of the next, I don't know, week or so for the region. Just be aware, we are expecting to see some rain increases in the area as we go into Friday, Saturday, and potentially Sunday, okay? And that may bring back some of that heavy rain, Marilyn, so just be aware of that. But for the rest of the week, just isolated showers. They could be heavy at times, as always with this stuff, but yeah, it's... nothing major there. I'm not seeing it, mate, at the moment. And longer term, you'll need to keep an eye on what that monsoon does, right? So at the moment, everything tells us that this monsoon is going to affect areas north of this region. But as we know, if something forms on the monsoon, then sure, we might be able to see it snag southwards, all right? Tian, hey Nitso, when's this crappy humidity going to bugger off? Tian, I'm not sure where you are. Unfortunately, if you're in Queensland, look, we're probably going to see dew points staying pretty high through Queensland for quite some time. I'm not seeing evidence that our dew points are going to drop too much along large sections of the state. So let me have a quick look at our dew points. Where are they? No dew points there. Oh, that's right. EC doesn't give us dew points. Buggers. Let me try and figure out who does. UK will give us dew points. Yeah, so if we take a look here, so anything in the blue is uncomfortable. Anything in the purple is, ugh, yuck, get me out of here. And so you can see here that for a large chunk of Queensland's coast, from about the northern Capricornia northwards, we're in the blue shading and into the purple shading. So that tells us that there's going to be a considerable amount of moisture continuing. So that blue shading is dew points in the 21, 22 plus degree. The dark blue gets pretty uncomfortable. And once we get into the purple, it's just disgustingly uncomfortable. So that's our dew point temperatures. And we can see there's no real substantial changes over the next week, over the next few days. In fact, what we're going to see is potentially higher dew points. So it's actually going to get more uncomfortable towards the end of the week on Thursday and Friday as that little coral sea mess comes onto the coast. So once that little coral sea mess comes onto the coast, the southeasterlies will die down, easterly flow takes control, and then we're going to see this real moisture level in the increase at the surface. And you can see how much more widespread these purpley bits are, and they extend all the way down to southeast Queensland. So we're really going to create some stifling humidity at the back end of the week into the weekend. So sorry to give you a bit of bad news there, but that humidity isn't going away anywhere at the moment across North Queensland. If you're up around Cairns, what you might actually see is while this coral sea rubbish comes onto the coast, there is a chance there that Cairns just dries out for a day or so. So there might be sort of a day there on Thursday where we're just a bit drier. You'll feel a little bit drier, and then Friday the humidity comes right back in. Dwayne, thanks, well explained. No worries, mate. As I say, I'm not having a go at you. It's just that, with models 2 weeks out, when there's a monsoon around, it's impossible. It really is impossible. Wayne, do you think that line of showers and storms just to the north of Charters Towers will make it to the coast? Didn't know there was one. Let's have a look. Charters Towers. Looks like it's propagating eastwards. Oh no, it's hit a boundary. Yeah, see this, Wayne? See this here? So see this boundary? Yeah. So just here we had this westward moving boundary. Here we've got an eastward moving boundary. So keep an eye on what's going on here. So that's our westward moving boundary. That's our eastward moving boundary. And so that explosion has happened right on that boundary as that west has hit the east. So see that? So see, as this has come through, we just lose it on the radar though. Oh, I don't know if I can't get it anywhere any clearer there. So see, as these little lines of showers are moving west, this line of storms is moving east, and then we just lose it on radar there, and then bang, in the middle of all that, we see the explosion. Ready, bang. See that? So that's where the two boundaries collided. The westward moving boundary, the eastward moving boundary. So I suspect once we get past that boundary, the environment here won't be as favourable. So I wouldn't imagine that they'll get to the coast. If we take a look, what does our high-res model suggest with this one? Firstly, let's have a look. Will we able to sustain that if we did get it onto the coast? Oh yeah. So there's enough instability there to sustain it. Where would it be moving? Thunderstorm steering winds. Yeah, moving in a northeasterly direction. I'm just a little bit dubious because we've hit the boundary, and from here we should be in a state where we're moving into a slightly more stable environment. Although the lifted indices do suggest that there's enough there for it. And the MSLP precip chart, what's that showing? Yeah, so that's not really picking. Yeah, it's picking that up there. And you can see, what does it do with it? Yeah, it sort of gets it over to the coast eventually, doesn't it? Sort of north of Rolling Stone, or Rolling Stone northwards. It does bring it onto the coast. So yeah, mate, looking at that, yeah, my intuition would tell me no, but the data there, as I say, intuition's an overrated thing. The data tells us that, yeah, there is a chance that this gets to the coastline, particularly to the north of Townsville. Let's have a look at the ECMWFAI. See what we've got over the next little bit. So it's picked up that rain between 4 and 10. It's also picking up an area of rain up further to the north, which I don't think exists. No, it doesn't. This is probably what it's been picking up between now and 10 o'clock coming across. Yeah, so the model's suggesting there, mate, that we're going to get, if you're up in Ingham, you're a reasonable chance of getting whatever's left of this. And if you're in between Ingham and Townsville, you're probably going to get whatever's left of this. So yeah, there's some signs there that might make it. Brett, need a bigger shirt, Nitso, them guns. Love your work, mate. Keep it up. Appreciate what you and your crew do. Thanks, Brett. Thanks, mate. Fair bit of moisture in Alice just a week ago. Flooding was quite impressive. Yeah, so that might be going back to our brown ocean discussion. So, Mike, that's a fair bit of moisture in Alice, meaning that there could be a very saturated soil profile through that region. So, yeah, it's one of those situations there, mate, where, you know, that's why I don't think we're seeing. That's why I don't think we're seeing so much evidence of that low weakening so quickly. Yeah. Another vision on that site, along with our local council, this Isa Dam water source is spilled for the first time tonight. All our crossings have gone over once again. The lake is 100% and still taking in the flow. Elpit Schulz. I hope every one of your subscribers and landowners, stock owners, stay safe with this low coming through again. Yeah, so do we, Elpit. But all we can do is warn people, mate, and so hopefully they understand that there's a lot of rain to come for that Mount Isa area over the course of the next 1 to 2 weeks. There will be a little bit of a break for a couple of days, and then it'll all set in again towards the end of the week. Calvin, you do a fantastic job, mate. I'm patrolling roads in the west for main roads. Richmond tonight. Goodness, give us a break so I can get some traffic rolling for Townsville to the Isa. Open the road from Townsville to Richmond late in the Arvo, but a bit more rain tonight and the road will be effed again very quickly. Yeah, I think we were seeing some more rain coming that way. Let's have a quick look. We'll use Maxwellton. Yeah, a bit patchy though, isn't it? So, you know, it's not everywhere, and you just want to hope it's not over the road. Yeah, so a lot of the heavier rainfall probably just south of the highway at the moment, and yes, there's some new stuff coming in from the northwest though. That's a bit concerning, and there's some pretty heavy stuff between Hughenden and Pentland. It's also a bit concerning. Yeah, and yeah, so there's still a bit of listen. I'm not going to lie to you. There's still plenty of rain coming, but it does become patchier, and so when we take a look there, you do get a situation where it does contract further westwards and further northwards, and we do get a bit of a reprieve where we're not getting quite as much shower and thunderstorm activity through the early to middle part of the week. And then as we get towards the end of the week, I suspect we're going to see probably an increase. Probably not at the end of the week, actually. We're probably going to see the increase next week once the monsoon starts to bring that moisture southwards again. So there will be a bit of a reprieve for sure. But areas sort of west of Cloncurry, I suspect they're going to get quite wet again from about Wednesday into Thursday and possibly Friday. And then And then, as I say, everyone's starting to get wet again potentially next week once the monsoon tells us what it's going to do. But that's still up in the air. We don't know what the monsoon's going to do. We don't know what it's going to produce. So I can't really speculate too much about next week. Jesse, thanks for the update, Nitso, the weekend. That's for the Whitsundays. Have a great sleep. Yeah, thank you. I'll be having a great sleep. A month before Yasi, were there any signs? No, not a month before. Nubel Pomor. A month before Yasi, were there any signs? No, I can't say there were any signs a month before Yasi. Yasi, the signs were so obvious, like 14 days out. That was incredible, because you look at the technology we got now compared to the technology we had when we had Yasi. The technology in weather forecasting has improved a hell of a lot in the last 15 years. So, the fact that we could see Yasi 14 days out, wow. Initially, I think it was hitting Brisbane, though. So we could see it 14 days out, but it was hitting Brisbane. But, from about 10 days out, we could see it's going to hit between sort of, where was it? Probably about Mackay and Cooktown. So from 10 days out, we could narrow it down to Mackay and Cooktown. Crazy stuff. We find it hard to do that now, 10 days out. That system was just so obvious. But not a month before. No, only 2 weeks before. I say only 2 weeks before it became obvious. And then 10 days out, it became obvious it was going to hit the coast. Hey, buddy, on your last video, you said the winds don't like changing direction and kick up a stink. Was that meaning they say you want me to, so I will increase rain? So whenever we have winds that want to travel in one direction, Bear, and whenever we force them to change direction, that forcing of the air mass, or that forcing of the wind to change direction, is what forces the air upwards as well. So that's why we see that. That's why we see that rain development. So when we force the air to change direction, we squeeze the air mass at the same time, and so that's why we see the potential rain development there. And air, when it gets squeezed, it can't go down. When the air gets squeezed, because it's denser at the surface, the air needs to go up to less dense areas, and so that's why we see the squeezing effect creating lift instead of dropping. When we see air spreading out, we drop the air towards the surface. But when we see air coming in, getting squeezed, we see it all rising. So yeah, I think that's what you're saying there. Yeah. So when I say they kick up a stink, they get cranky because they're being forced to do something they weren't planning to do, and so by them getting cranky means that they're rising, they're lifting, and they're creating lifting motion through the atmosphere. I missed Mackay. What's going on? Not much. No, you didn't miss much, Josh. Not much until Thursday, Friday. Thursday, Friday, we see an increase in showers. We talked about the Mackay with Sundays a bit earlier. So, yeah. Is Innisfail due for another major cyclone? I'm sure they're due, but there's nothing on the cards at the moment that suggests they're going to get one. But, yeah, they're probably due. I think Larry was the last big one through Innisfail. But that's Cyclone Alley, right? That Cairns to, or Cooktown to Townsville coastline is what we call Cyclone Alley on the east coast. There's a Cyclone Alley on the west coast, which is even more dramatic than that. But yeah, that area between sort of just Cooktown and Townsville's probably a bit south, but Cooktown to about Ingham used to be, not in the last 20 years, but used to be the sort of Cyclone Alley of the east. And there has been a decrease in cyclone activity through there in the last decade, so they're well and truly due for a fairly significant tropical cyclone impact. The last major cyclone impact to hit that section of the coast was, I think it was Yasi. Has there been a big cyclone since Yasi on the northeast? I'm not talking about Marsha and Debbie and those ones that hit down around the Whitsundays. I'm talking about the cyclones that hit Cyclone Alley on the east coast, which is Cooktown to Ingham. I'm pretty sure the last big one was around Yasi, mate. So well and truly, Innisfail is due for another major cyclone for sure, but overdue, I would say. But there's nothing there that suggests that we're going to see one, not in the next week and a half. Okay. And I got a last one. Kylie McGrath, mix up some equal parts of honey, lemon, and apple cider. That's what I don't have, apple cider vinegar. I've heard that does pretty amazing stuff. I've got the honey and lemon, and I sort of sip a little bit of tea before, like hot tea, with honey, and then I put honey, Manuka honey, and lemon in there. And I'm sucking on the eucalyptus and butter menthol things, but yeah, it's a slow process. I'm getting my voice back, and yeah, me not getting angry at stuff and yelling at stuff, and the bomb not making any major mistakes lately has got me in a much calmer mood. So, all right, thanks very much for watching, folks. If you'd like to support us, just remember weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. $32.95 is our subscription a year. $69.95 a year if you want everything that we've got to offer, including all of our forecasts, as well as all of our weather models and things like that. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. We're going to have a chat again Wednesday night. Wednesday night, still won't have a great idea about what's going to happen with the monsoon, but the monsoon's going to be only 2-3 days away at that point. So we'll at least maybe have a better idea at where those little spin-ups are going to be. But we probably still can't look too far ahead at this point by Wednesday night. Maybe by Friday night, we'll have a better idea at how things are going to progress. Thanks very much for watching.